Well, welcome to Yeshiva Daf, your sponsor, Louis Nishma, Sabi Akashol Neva, Sitzchok. We're holding in Sanhedrin Daf Samech Aleph. Find 10 lines from the top. Only Avak Mediftel Ravino, Lemay de Korma Leirova Bar Avchano Labaye, Emo Yotzo Shtachavoyo Lelamed Alaklal Kula. So, as mentioned in the previous Daf, the Gemara wanted to tell me that a Shtachavoyo is a single thing that a person does, Loi Kedar, not the normal way to worship Avodah Zarah, and you'll be Chayav Skila for. Any other way is if it's a voidos pnim, you do it with something that is chayav. But anything else like kissing, hugging, dressing, one is not chayav. The Avon in the world was everything you chayav. Same way, so heichu yavdu lemutu by the pasuk that says that a person says, "I'm going to look at the goyim and you're going to follow what the goyim do." What are you following the goyim? They worship in one way, you're doing it different. What is that pasuk of the lemuti? Maybe you'll tell me. A person is acting in a disgraceful way, that is not chayav. Because the Mishnah mentioned of the Zohar called pure. What is pure? Someone defecates in front of the Zohar, and that's the derech avodah in that pure. In this case, meaning in the case of a regular Zohar, regular, a different Zohar, and in that Zohar, one goes and he defecates himself when he does a bizayon. So maybe you go tell me that's not an avodah. Something more that we know already. How do we know the Mashtach Chavoy now from bowing down? Mashtach Chavoy derech kibud. I've called derech kibud. Has to be derech kibud. That's derech bizayin. So immediately, what is the Gemara saying? We're saying, I know it has to be derech kibud. So what does the pasuk tell me? You trying to emulate the goyim. You're not emulating the goyim. So here comes the interesting thing. We mentioned the Mishnah has two types of avodah zarah. There's peor and there's markulis. Now the peor, they both you worship both in a disgraceful way. The peor, the way you worship it is by defecating. The markulis is by throwing stones. So I'll say this: if you defecate in front of a quote unquote normal avodah zarah, that's not an avodah. But it's avodah zarah you're anyway doing a disgraceful way. The way to worship the avodah zarah is throwing stones in it. So maybe defecating is also okay. So now you have to tell your pasuk, they don't know. It has to be a mechubadik way. Anyway, you're disgracing it. Who I've called bizoyim, kalas ratzach. Says the Gemara, but you go to Markulis again. The way to worship Markulis is throwing stones. Someone goes and gives a baby, normal way of worshiping. It says, don't give your sacrifices to avodah zarah. When you learn the pasuk, you don't normal way of worship avodah zarah. We know. How do you know ways that are not the normal way? For example, markulis, the normal way of worshiping is throwing stones in it. How do you know that doing karbonis is wrong? Then we know the shoy kedarko. Shoy kedarko me'ashtachavoyo nafko. But according to the Havim in the Gemara in the previous Amud, you're learning from ashtachavoyo. That will be the source that everything shoy kedarko is going to be usher. Any way of not doing it normally. Says because with ashtachavoyo, we talk about that's not normal to bow down to. So a person has a desire, it's not more normal to bow down to. He's bowing down to it. He's chayav b'mishtachavoyo. So from here you learn that you're chayav. And you would think, speaking of Akut V'Hadamina, that Shachavayo teaches you everything else. So the Gemara also b'ziveyach lehachiz. There we talk about ziveyach lehachiz. What does it mean? So Zok Rashi, Eino miskaven lekablo elav be'eloya. Ashvini kodor b'alav. You know what that pasuk is teaching you? A person who is not making this avodah zarah for his God, be his God. He's making it to annoy it. But he's giving it some power. Now, here it's very hard to have discussion with this, a lively discussion with this morning with somebody. What does it mean? Does he believe this is a God or doesn't believe this is a God? But the chorah, what you see from here is avodah zarah is not the mistake that people have with avodah zarah, is they think that avodah zarah is nothing. It's just v'avel. Take your cup and make your avodah zarah. That's not usually avodah zarah. Avodah zarah is actual powers that you have in the world, either powers that everybody can relate to, or powers that are beyond that are kreiches atumah. But if you give the validity to these powers as a standalone powers, that's avodah zarah. We believe the Avodas Hashem is that really the only koyach in the world is Kodesh Baruch. Everything else is all coming from Kodesh. Everything is coming from Kodesh Baruch. Everything in the world is coming from Kodesh Baruch. That's really the emunah of Hashem. But now that there's not powers. Now the Sforno says that, what does the Sforno say? Sforno says Davar Niflo. Sforno says, on this week's Parsha, the Parsha's Easter, Lo Yelechoy Elohim Acherim Al Ponai. What does it mean? So the Sforno, the king is always happy if you respect the servants. So what the problem will be? I'm respecting the servant. So he says, and I think we can take an example for this current president. If someone will go and respect very much Secretary Rubio, it's very nice. He's the secretary of the president. But if he respects him in front of Trump, then Trump will get very upset, right? Because, what do you mean? In front of my face? If you respect the servant or the king in front of the king, that's a problem. That's what the pasuk says, Lo Yelechoy Elohim Acherim Al Ponai. Don't have a Elohim Acherim in front of my face. Because Bo is everywhere. It is koyches. So here, someone's going and somehow is giving validity to this power. He's not worshiping it. He has his own God, but he's giving it power. That is considered to be also Allah.
So what he writes here on the bottom is he says he did it in spite of God by slaughtering the animal. So he wasn't doing it for the idol. He was doing it to spite the Rebbeinu Shalom that he killed the animal on.
What is he quoting? Were they quoting over there?
I don't know. He writes here. Therefore, he says Rashi Yad Ramah Chedusha Yerim.
So Rashi didn't say that. He read them out very possible. It's a machlokes Rishonim. Who's it coming to spite?
Oh,
is he coming to spite? But I think for what we're talking about right now, it's not enough Kamina so much. The machlokes Rishonim is who's coming to spite. He's coming to spite the Kodesh Baruch Hu, but he's going to spite the Avodah Zarah. In other words, coming to say, I'm not I'm upsetting you. Yeah, one I just saw. I saw the machlokes over here is who's going to spite. It says here the Adrama, and the second pirush says, like you said, that is coming to spite Kodesh Baruch Hu. They learn also that's a Rashi. Oh, because it's later. It's not this one. I'm not sure. I didn't get it from Rashi. But the other shot of the Adrama is that he says that he was going to be Marchis and Markulis. He goes down with the Zohar and to upset it, he doesn't worship it the normal way. Right? So, in other words, so when a person to a certain degree, he's giving cheshivas to this thing. So even according to the shot, the first shot, the other shot they about, come to spite Kodesh Baruch Hu, therefore what? He's worshiping the Zohar, but doesn't believe it in the God, doesn't make it as a God. So what does it mean? What is he doing? He is giving it some validity.
Yeah, he's doing it just to spite the Rebbeinu Shalom.
Right. I'm saying, even though he's now accepting it as a God.
No, it's not at all.
Right.
He's just showing. Usually, you do these things in front of by a mizbeach, in front of Rebbeinu Shalom. So he's doing it not in mizbeach. He's doing it someplace else where it's an insult.
Right. But in any case, what we want to come and take it over here is, even though he doesn't believe in God, the fact he doesn't believe it's a God doesn't mean it doesn't give validity. Two different things. There's one union of giving it as a God, saying, "This is my God," as a shalom. Or the other one is, it's not my God, but it still has a power. I look at it as its own thing. Okay. So yeah, just looking here that either that's the two pshatim that we have here that we mentioned. Also, Rabbi Yoina says it. These two pshatim. Okay, let's say it. It has to do with other inyonim. Let's say Zok to Gemara now. Nuno lost oxen. The fact that lost oxen has nothing to do with what happened over here. Interesting question. Why we're mentioning it? But he was looking around for the oxen. Probably Bay Rabba. Rabba finds it. Rabba says, "Oh, you're walking around. I have a question. I have a stira in the Mishnayos. Please help me answer the stira. What's this stira?" It says someone who worships the Kohen. He's worshiping the Zohar, but he's not saying. He's just worshiping. Someone says, I'm going to worship the Zara. Or he says even more this, I'm going to go and worship the Zara. I mean, the two-stage process. Or he says, let's go and worship. He's taking other people with him. Maybe they're not going to join him. The more he's saying is less a chance it's going to happen. And all these cases, we say that what? Is over the Zara. So the Chura, isn't that a stiro? We said Oivid. Here he says only saying is the Oivid. So they want to bring a few answers to this. The first case by us, in our Mishnah, he says, I am not accepting this Avodah Zarah unless I worship it. Before I worship it, is not my God. And the Oimer, he says, I want to worship it. So either you're accepting it as a God or you're worshiping it, and in one of these cases, already is Oivet. Basically, here's we know that. Tanoi Shakel Na'amal, you're taking Tanoi from the world? Tanoi, it's Machlikas Tanoi. Someone says, come worship me. Now, when you say, come worship me, meaning, what is Boivavduni? What does it mean, come worship me? So, in this, right now, this stage of the Gemara, doesn't mean come worship me, necessarily. It means, well, let's do it with the Zara. Meir says, just by saying you're chayav, and Meir says, you're and the Gemara explains, if everybody else is worshiping it, right? It says, don't make for you a pesel. Because creating the pesel, creating this opportunity for it to do over the Zohar is already a problem. What does it mean? Right? Them arguing on is arguing on when he just says the words. He didn't create anything. So Yahweh does Dibur work or not work? Right? Here's the Machlokes Tanoim. Machlokes Tanoim is, I'm just saying a Dibur, if I'm saying I want to worship the Zara, it's not good enough to be like, or not? Right? He says, so just to explain a little more, what the words come to exclude is if he said to worship and they worship, obviously it's also because it's like the pesel, right? Don't make yourself into a pesel. People should worship you. But we're just saying the words, and people did not worship it. Is that considered to be Avodah Zarah or not? So here he's saying, if you just said the words, it didn't actually, was nothing that was implemented. Is there a problem with that? Says the Gemara. Hold on, my Visa Mil Saddam. No. We said the Machlokes is if they spoke. No, the Machlokes is even. I want to say that's not true. Now, if you agrees that just saying a Dibur is Chai. Why? Because the Tiran brings a Mishnah, or the times of Braiso. He says a person's not found until he says, I'm actually going to do avodah. So you see, Dibur is already a problem. So Gemara says, everybody agrees Dibur is an issue. What is Machlokes? The Macy's last point. Person says, I want you to come and he's telling people to come and worship and be Macy's house, which wasn't what is Macy's house point. He wants people to worship him. Which I'm of his own. So he says, I'm going to come and convince you to come to me. People say, okay, come to the game. Person says, worship me. And he says, and the guy says, oh, and someone says, okay, no problem. So just doing that, even though nothing came afterwards, that was already Avodah Zarah. He set up Avodah Zarah. He convinced someone to worship him. He said yes, that means he agrees to it. But if someone who's Mesa Atzmoy, nobody's listening to him. They're going to say, why is he better than us? Why is he Avodah Zarah? Why am I Avodah Zarah? Everybody says that, right? They're saying yes, they're just making fun of him. Right? Then Shmuel comes and says, I'm a God. And you say, okay, of course you are. I'm a God too. We're both gods. What do you mean? They're not taking it seriously. So therefore, the Gemara says that it's not, that's the Machlokes. Machlokes is, Rabbi Yehuda and Rami are arguing in a regular Rabbi and Rami are agreeing in a regular Avodah Zarah. Says let's worship it. It's Avodah Zarah. But if he says let's go worship it. He says I want to go worship it, and myself. That's what the machlokes is. Back to the sphere, we have a sphere in Mishayis. One Mishnah says that dibur is enough. One says avodah. Umasisi can be yochid, and nisas can be rabbi and nisosi. Depends if you're convincing one person or convincing men. Yochid lo mimlich v'toy batrei. When a person tries to convince one person to do something, it's very easy. Persuades him. He does it. The fact he told to do over the Zohar, it's already a problem. But if it's a rabbi, if it's a few, anybody who's involved with the tzibur, let's get people to do something. Until you get a whole group to do something, they don't do it. So until they don't actually worship, he's not chai. So does dibur work or not work? Depends if it's an individual rabbi. That's the second answer of the Gemara. I mean, really the third answer. The first answer of the Gemara was that he says, I'm not willing to worship unless I'm not accepting it as a God until I worship it. But usually dibur is enough. Second shot of the Gemara, machlokes tanoim. Third shot is, depends if you're talking to an individual or talking to me. How do I know there's difference between an individual and me? So don't listen to him. However, just listening, it's already a problem. That's by one. Where do we find a difference between many that are being persuaded and one? It says that will persuade you. It doesn't say how many he persuades. One or many. There is some difference between individual and many, and the difference is as follows. Individuals different than Rabbi. Meaning, when you punish somebody who does on the Zohar, it's skill. But you don't take away his money. You don't take away his assets. But it's here in Idachas, that's Rabbi. That means the whole city, you kill them with a sword, which is less chomer, but they don't get the money gets all burned out. So there's chumras by Yochid and by Rabbi. How meal so the shine? It's the only difference between an individual and many. And everything else is the same. So there's no difference between Yochid and Rabbi. So it doesn't like this answer of Yosef that by Yochid, by just saying something, it becomes Avodah Zarah, and by Rabbi not. It depends if he's doing it, is persuading himself or other people persuading him. If he's doing himself, he'd say, you know what? I really think the Zohar is really, really special. He may change his mind. So as long as he didn't worship, he just said I'm worshiping, is not a problem. But if it's a whole group, his whole chevra is going to do it with the Zohar, so he won't change his mind. How do I know that? Don't be swear, don't listen to him. If you listen to somebody else, then you chai right away. Yourself, no. That's a fourth answer. Depends if he's persuaded by himself, persuaded by others. Both talk about it by others, persuading him. The first case, he's saying, the guy told him, this Avodah Zarah is awesome. It eats, it drinks, it does good, it does bad. You should really worship it. How do you know? No, he didn't explain why this is such a good Avodah Zarah. How do I know this answer? It says you're close with the Zarah and you're far with the Zarah. Why should be this with the craving and the rechekim? It says the Gemara, meaning the close of the Zarah is you know what they are. They're nothing. They don't do anything. But the far away ones, you are maybe persuading. You don't know there's some of the Zohar a few miles away. It's unbelievable what it does, right? So he says that's the Torah tells you don't be so persuaded to go to the rechekim. The same with the craving or garnished. What's the rechekim or garnished? I love the meaning why should the far away ones be so attractive? Because someone says you don't know what they're doing because we don't know them. You see from here that is the difference. Rashi says the same Torah about Yisrael. It depends which type of Yisrael. Meaning answer number 5. Answer number 5 is If it's a guy, it's a first timer. Great, he said I'm doing it, doesn't mean he's gonna do it. But Yisrael Mumar, he's already a Mumar, he already does it with the Zor, he already does Averis, so then you assume he's gonna do it. You know, oh, it's just a Loizu Avsu. Not only if you worshipped it, but even if you just said I'm gonna worship. So that's answer number 6. So that's 6 answers with Shas. What's the deal? What was the question? One hand it says you have to worship it. The other hand it says only saying you're worshiping is a problem. What is it? So 6 answers. Answer number 1 that we said in the previous Amud was that there's a difference between if he says I'm not going to worship it until I'm not accepting it as a god until I worship it. Simple answer. Second answer is a Machlokes Tanoim. Reverse. The third answer, it depends if it's he's persuading one or many. The fourth answer is the difference if he's being persuaded by one or by many. The next answer is the difference if he knows, if it's being convinced that this thing is so great. Another answer is that is Yisrael Mumar. The final answer we saw is Lo Yizlu Avsu, meaning the both Mishnayos work together. So if you want Idman. Some worship with Kechavim from love and hate. What does love and hate mean? This is a very, very big machlokes in the Mishnah. The Rashi learns and says he does it because he loves or is afraid of a human being. Someone he loves so much, the guy tells him, I don't need to worship with this. He does it for him. Doesn't really believe in it. Fear means he's scared of somebody. I think machlokes was showing him, is he scared because he's scared of his life? That's what places over here. Or he's scared just because it's inconvenient for him. So that's what it is. The Rambam says something very important. You have to be behind this Rambam. Rambam says the Avayira means that he loves or fears that God. So the Nesikim asks him, what do you mean? If he loves or fears the God, that means he believes there's a God. So that's like doing matter. So in this case, he's worshiping it. I don't care why he's worshiping it. He accepts it as a God. He accepts it. He didn't accept it as a God. He's just out of the era. So the Gemara, how do I know this? That someone worships the Chavim, right? It doesn't matter. We're doing the Mishnah. It doesn't matter what you do to it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Worshiping it for any reason. No, sorry. The Abay's right. It says it says all the avoidance. What does Oivet? Oivet means you're doing it for Avamir. So the boy no. I'm look at the tired of your meal. Like Avamir said, Oivet Kedarko, it does it normal way, and then other avoidance look at that, that's how the Mishnah says. Says the Gemara, Omar Abayim Mino Amil, bring arrive. Not done. Don't bow down to them, you can bow down to human being. Haman was made himself a desire. So maybe you could bow down to a human being, but not to a desire. It's more about Haman Meira. Why people bow down to Haman? They didn't believe he's a god. They were just afraid of him. I mean, not exactly Haman. Similar to Haman, but for different reasons. So we have like this. There is when an individual does a chait, he brings a korban chatos and a cave. If a kohen gadol does a chait, he brings he brings a different korban. But if he does a avodah, then what happens? So then he brings a korban like a yochid. But now, when a kohen gadol does a regular avera to be different for his chatos, he needs to do what's called helam dover. That's helam dover. Not that he just made a mistake, but that he passed, and this is mutter. Right? What is helam dover? He learned the sugya and he came to the conclusion that you're allowed to eat fat, and he find out no, you're not allowed to eat fat. So now he brings a special korban. If a Dezorah, the Torah says he has a korban like a yochid. What's the case of a Dezorah? He just made a simple mistake, or he had helam dover that he passed and then it's mutter. So the machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda Bishgog is my say. He just made a mistake. Helam dover means he passed and it's mutter. They all agree that the korban that he brings a zero female goat like a yochid. Maybe Asham Tali. Doesn't mean Asham Tali. Asham Tali is when a person doesn't know, he's not sure. He's not sure if he made a mistake or not. So he brings Asham Tali. Asham Tali doesn't work by a regular chatos by a kohen gadol. Why not? Because it's only Helam Dover. Helam Dover means he paskins his mutter. It's not a maybe. But the Zara, even though the Rebbe holds there can be a regular simple mistake, you don't bring a shotol. What does it mean he made a mistake with the Zara? The only mistake, he starts shul, he's bad done. Father, it's not a shul, it's a Zara. Same thing. That's not a Zara. The Zohar needs to be the person who is worshiping. He's not worshiping, he thinks of Hashem. He sees a statue. He bows on the statue. So I don't get it. He accepted it to be a god, so that's amazing. Based on that. He sees a statue, bows down to it, he thinks it's nothing. He didn't accept it as a Zohar. Again, the Zohar, one of the conditions of the Zohar is you need to bow down to it. Elamai has to be. He's doing it, but he's doing it not because he believes in it, just because he's afraid or because he loves something. So right from here, that's also what the Zohar. I'm not talking about Aviyah. He thinks worshiping this of the Zohar is mutter. So 1 second. We just said the Machlik is Rabbi Rabbanon. Did he pass in his mutter, or he just made a mistake? Rabbi said he didn't make a mistake. So what does it mean make a mistake? He said his mutter. So he passed in his mutter. So the more says the more idle dollar. Boimer mutter legam. Helen dollar kimin mixas will be to mixas. Says no. There's a difference. There is a difference. What is the difference? Look at Rashi. Helen dollar kimin mixas to mixas. Kigon yeshus kachon batoyo shul isbo shul lekata mishtach the mutter. That means no, the Zohar is Osler. But not everything is Osler. Not allowed to give a carbon to it. You're allowed to bow down to it. But Oimer Mutter says there's no Zohar. He completely he doesn't know about this Aveira. That is not in Dover. It's called Shchukas Dover, and that's the case. So again, Machlik is Abai and Ravo. If a person is worshiping the Zohar for the wrong reasons, Avaviro is the Maisi of worshiping the Zohar and is Chayav. That's Abai, or he's not worshiping the Zohar and he is Patur according to Ravo. So again, we'll stop over here. Beis Hashem. Continue after Mincha Ma'ariv.
Let me ask you one thing.
Sure.
You're doing after Mincha Ma'ariv. You're gonna have anyone there? Do you want to do before Mincha Ma'ariv? Because I know David's in Florida. I'm in Florida. Mincha. If you do 4:45, I have a better chance that I can try making it. I think David would agree 4:45 or something. No.
I have not made it on a Sunday evening since I'm here because we're davening 45 minutes later than you. So when you're starting your daf, I'm starting mincha.
Exactly. Mincha Ma'ariv here is about 6:05, 6:10 now.
6:05, I think it is.
Exactly.
I got it. Okay, so they'll do before because I think maybe Borgen will come or Tesla. I think is still going to come, but I can tell them to come before.
I'm just suggesting it. If you do, I don't know what time's mincha. 5:15 over there now.
Probably.
So 4:45. It's not. I can't promise, but I have a shot. The other time I have 0 shot. David has 0 shot.
Correct.
And you know, Sruli, I met him Friday night. He's here, and Mendy's here.
I know. Orlando was there.
Right. So they're not gonna. And Harry Jacobowitz I saw in Shabbos in Tower 41 also. So he's also not there.
Yeah, it's 5:20. Okay, so maybe we'll do it 10 to 5, 4:50.
If it works for you, I'm
okay,
just
I'll
suggesting.
I'll let you know. Good idea. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.